It's finally happened. Sony released the WH-1000XM6, one of the most hyped headphone releases of the year. And you probably want to know, did they fix the mistakes of headphones past? Yes. 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 Sony definitely took getting roasted over the WH-1000XM5 to heart, and it did an admirable job of squashing bugs. But while the old bugbears of the previous models are largely addressed, there are new problems that come up. Problems that will make you think twice about buying the new XM6. But let me explain. The new Sony WH-1000XM6 looks quite a bit like the older WH-1000XM5, but this time it has redesigned hinges with a metal skeleton to avoid breakage, deeper ear cups, redesigned driver elements, upgraded ANC, and a vastly improved processor to handle digital signal processing for the sound and noise canceling. Under the hood, the WH-1000XM6 has a 30mm driver with an ANC mic in front of each. On the bottom of the left ear cup is an analog jack that you can plug a male-to-male TRRS cable into for wired listening, and the new snapping softshell case has a pocket to stow your easily lost wires. A number of other creature comforts were added, like being able to listen while you charge your headphones, a larger power button that's impossible to miss while the cans are on your head, and an absurd amount of microphones for noise cancellation. 12 in total, 6 of which are used for phone calls, but more on ANC later. While this is all great on paper, and it is, what does any of this mean for you? What about comfort or sound quality or any of the things that really matter with headphones? That's a little bit more complicated. For starters, while the design has undoubtedly been improved, a couple of new foibles have cropped up. The first is comfort. The wider headband accommodates more noggins than before, but the relatively thin padding remains a sore spot. Even brand new, the plastic chassis sits very close to flush on my head, so I'm worried about what happens when the viscoelastic foam starts to lose its original shape and gets thinner over time, especially annoying for those of you with glasses. It also may impact active noise cancellation performance, as we saw with the XM5, so it's worth noting that these headphones might run into the same issue. Additionally, that ANC assembly in front of the speaker driver is quite large and protrudes a couple millimeters from the plane of the mesh. Because of this, if you have smaller ears, accidentally put the headphones on backwards, or generally just get an odd fit with the WH-1000XM6, it could touch your pinna and rub the mesh on your ear over time. Not many people will have this problem, but if you do find yourself chafing a little, just try reseating the headphones a little bit further back. Sony also threw in everything but the kitchen sink here, as it, like everyone else, has bet big on features like spatial audio, sound virtualization modes, ambient pass-through modes, and more. Additionally, the headphones are able to support spatial audio upmixing, which takes each channel and processes it to what the headphones think is needed to make a stereo recording a spatial one. I prefer a regular old stereo mix, but if you're a spatial audio fan, it's worth seeing if you like it. I don't, but it's not something that would stop me from buying headphones if I can get away with never using it, and I won't. The Bluetooth stack is also upgraded to 5.3, not the latest 5.4, and you can listen over SBC, AAC, LC3, and LDAC. LE audio is also able to be toggled in the app, as well as virtualization modes, 10-band EQ, and audio quality selection. Sony's latest release claims the headphones are compatible with Orcast, though we haven't gotten that to work here in the office just yet. I didn't have any issues here with LDAC, but you might be interested to know that there are some compatibility issues with some Android phones that can make the full 990 kilobits per second transfer rate a little unstable, so choosing the 660 kilobit per second option will be much less annoying while being free from issues. iPhone users will be locked to AAC, but that's hardly an issue nowadays, and I mean, what's new? It's Apple. What'd you expect? I'm also a little miffed where Apple, Shure, Sennheiser, JLab, JBL, Focal, Bowers & Wilkins, and others have made USB-C audio standard on noise-canceling headphones. The WH-1000XM6 does not have this capability. Instead, the 3.5mm analog jack is present for wired listening. I see this as a huge missed opportunity, as it seems like the industry has decided that USB is the next logical step in wired audio, and it really sucks not to be able to have a truly digital lossless option where the competition does. All right, so how's the battery? In our standardized battery test, the Sony WH-1000XM6 was able to play back music, peaking at 75 dBSPL for 37 hours and 14 minutes. While this is a rock-solid result, the top tier of ANC headphones is a bit more competitive than you might think. For while these cans absolutely mop the floor with Apple AirPods Max at 20 hours and the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra at 27 hours and 37 minutes, they fall short of the Sennheiser Momentum 4 Wireless at 56 hours and the JBL Tour 1 M3 at 55+ hours. The battery of the Sony WH-1000XM6 is just enough to cover an entire work week if you take your legally mandated breaks, or almost 4 weeks of commutes if you have an hour to travel each way. Like me. It sucks. If you want to top up on juice, a 3-minute charge should net you about 3 hours worth of listening time. I mean, headphones don't have massive batteries to begin with, so we don't really need any wildly fast charging to satisfy our needs here. With a 6 microphone array with a processor that can make use of an AI analysis of heaps of recordings of, what not to pass to a phone, the Sony WH-1000XM6 is excellent at rejecting unwanted noise, especially wind noise, as you can hear for yourself on the SoundGuys.com website. Go to the full review. Or up there. Or other places. Just click things. While you're not going to record the next top 100 hit on these headphones, and if you do, post proof in the comments, we'll eat our words. The array is more than good enough to handle business calls, personal calls, really just any phony conversations you want without dropouts or excess noise. If you're looking for Sony to fight to retake the throne of best ANC headphones, it did, to a point. On the back of extremely good isolation, the powerful new ANC system is able to put the WH-1000XM6 on the same tier shared only by the Apple AirPods Max, JBL Tour 1 M3, and slightly leapfrogs the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra. If you don't want any junk noise to reach your ears, the Sony WH-1000XM6 is on the short list of the most effective attenuators. This is due in part to the upgraded infrastructure of both AI optimization and the new Q3 chip, purported to be 7 times faster than the chip in the WH-1000XM5s. I found this quite good on Vancouver SkyTrain, and while drowning out the neighbors' untimely and absurdly messy divorce. By physically blocking out a ton of noise without needing the ANC to handle it, what does break through generally isn't all that loud compared to how it could have been. But to help visualize what I mean, I've taken a standard set of noise fields and measured the difference at the eardrum between running the samples without any headphones on and with the Sony WH-1000XM6's ANC enabled. The audio behind these samples is not to be taken exactly what you'll hear, but a general comparison of how much noise is attenuated. The brighter the area on the chart is, the louder the sound, the darker, you get it. Visualization, here you go, have a listen. If you want to let some noise in to manage your surroundings, Sony retains one of the best pass-through modes in the market and allowed me to handle swapping between full blast ANC and being able to talk to the kids by cupping my ear over the right ear cup. And you can even toggle a speak-to-chat feature like the one found in the Google Pixel Buds Pro 2 in order to have a conversation without futzing with the settings on your phone before listening to somebody. But I reiterate, don't approach people wearing headphones. They don't want to talk to you. Just stop. Get some help. Perhaps the biggest improvement to the WH-1000XM6 over the WH-1000XM5 is the sound quality. Though audiophiles are still probably going to turn up their noses at the level of bass these headphones provide, the tuning Sony gave their new flagship product is projected to satisfy more people right out of the box. Without any EQ presets, profiles, or other user-defined processing enabled, the WH-1000XM6 knocked it out of the park, according to Head Acoustics multidimensional audio quality scores, with a 4.8 out of 5 overall and no score below a 4.3. On a scale of 1 to 5, that's notably good for ANC headphones, which typically struggle a little bit, as evidenced by the WH-1000XM5, which scored a 4.2 overall. ANC headphones tend not to be the most amazing at this whole sound quality thing, and that's still true, but at least these will be well received by most people, even despite the challenges of the format. Switching off to the objective metrics, we can see that the frequency response, how each frequency along the range of human hearing is emphasized, that the WH-1000XM6 didn't completely start from scratch. However, the bass is emphasized more as a slope rather than a shelf that starts too high, XM5, and the highs can be a more reasonable level as a result. Speaking of, the highs are quite different than those of the WH-1000XM5, as the treble extension is much greater, though with some strong peaks at 16 and 10.5 kilohertz. So what does that mean for you? Well, probably not a ton, though you may end up wanting to tamp down on the 10.5 kilohertz peak a little bit to prevent some annoyingly loud atmospheric or room effect sounds from getting too grating. If you're older, you'll likely appreciate that 16 kilohertz bump, as it's a bit similar to Knoll's proposed solution to meeting listener preferences of 40-plus-year-olds. Hey, wait a minute, I'm listening to prog rock like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard's most recent albums will sound quite good to most of your dad rock fans. However, listeners under 25 may elect to use the Sound Connect app to touch down the uppermost octave by a few decibels, only to creep it back up as the inexorable march of time proceeds, bringing your old age ever closer to a crushing and undeniability of your own mortality. In any case, a response like this is quite good for immersiveness, as it emphasizes the ranges of human hearing responsible for little details, room effects, and echoes that might make it into the mix. If you do want to change anything, the WH-1000XM6 is a far more reasonable starting point than the older XM5 because it is much harder to EQ away that high bass shelf that the XM6 does not have, which is the source of a lot of gripes surrounding the headphone's performance. The WH-1000XM6 at least allows you a little less opportunity to make things sound too weird when you go tinkering, as the stock sound is pretty decent already. But if you're asking me whether you should rush out and drop $449.99 on these headphones, I'm gonna have to say, maybe. They're certainly at the top of the pile for 2025, and yeah, they're excellent performers. However, when you're sinking that kind of coin on something you're gonna use every day, having the entire feature set that you need is going to be important. And in that regard, the WH-1000XM6 is a little bit riskier of a purchase than some other competitors. I say that because while Sony did an excellent job addressing the shortcomings of previous WH-1000X series headphones, the company didn't look to make any big innovations or accommodations to how people are going to need headphones to work in the coming years. And while it might seem like I'm being unfair here, this is tough love. Part of being the front runner in any category is going to be catching flack when it feels undeserved. When you're making the case for people to spend a ton of their money on your headphones, it's the usability features that are going to be important for the long haul. And if the tools you're using don't do what you need them to, you look elsewhere. Sony could have used the opportunity to throw an elbow that no competitor could come back from, but they didn't. No USB audio is going to be a bigger deal as the time goes on, and it would have been so easy. Additionally, it might be worth Sony's time to take a hard look at using its impressive DSP to make Apple-like accommodations for people with measurable hearing loss in certain bands. And I can't believe I have to mention this, but we're still waiting on better maintenance options, like a removable or replaceable battery. If one of the bigger companies did all of that, it would be so tough to tell people not to go out and buy that product. The Sony WH-1000XM6 are excellent ANC headphones. I can't take that away from them. But as always, nothing's ever perfect. Sure, they fix their mistakes, but there's also new ones, and it will be up to you to decide whether or not they're good enough for you. But if earbuds are more your speed, Sony also released budget ANC earbuds, the Sony WH-1000XM6, reviewed over here. Check it out. It's a good one.